So far, at least 15 different human species have been identified besides us modern humans. But let's admit it, none are as fascinating as the Neanderthals. Your genes contain about 1% to 4% Neanderthal DNA. And what we've learned about Neanderthals tells a chilling story that's no laughing matter. We modern humans once shared this planet with other human species. But something in the history of life wiped out our closest relatives, who might have been as intelligent as us. Who were the Neanderthals and what happened to them? Could what happened to them happen to us one day? Let's find out. Who were our ancestors? The story of our relationship with Neanderthals begins around 500,000 years ago in East Africa. At that time, neither Neanderthals nor we existed. Rather, it was the Homo heidelbergensis, also known as the Heidelberg people. These people lived across a wide area from East to South Africa. Over time, some populations began migrating northward, spreading across Europe and Asia through Arabia over millennia. This widespread migration and the subsequent isolation led to rapid evolutionary changes, resulting in the Neanderthals in Europe, the Denisovans in Asia, and our own species, Homo sapiens, in Africa over about 100,000 years. However, evolution isn't always a neat and orderly process. Species can split into new forms in different regions and then come back together to interbreed. This makes evolutionary history a complex web of relationships. It's more accurate to think of evolution not as a clean tree, but as a tangled bush or even a massive river delta with interconnected branches. These diverging branches can remerge before they drift far enough apart, with temporary or permanent barriers being broken down. When diverging species interbreed, determining where one species ends and another begins can be challenging. In human evolutionary history, it's not always clear where Homo heidelbergensis ends, where Homo sapiens begins, or their exact relationship with Homo erectus. But unlike with ancient species like Homo habilis, we have a powerful tool to understand Neanderthals and their relationship with us, a complete Neanderthal genome. This genome provides all the information we need, and the sequencing of this genome was such a significant achievement that it won the 2022 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. In a future video, I'll explain how we extract DNA from organisms that lived tens of thousands of years ago. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications if you don't want to miss it. Our understanding of Neanderthals didn't begin with their genetic discovery. The first Neanderthal fossils were found in 1829 in Belgium, long before the concepts of DNA or genes existed. Initially, these bones weren't recognized as belonging to a separate human species. Later, in 1856, the famous Neanderthal 1 skull was discovered in a cave in the Neander Valley in Germany. The analysis of this skull was first published in 1864, and it was in this publication that the species was named Homo neanderthalensis. The discovery of Neanderthals marked the birth of paleoanthropology, the study of ancient humans. Charles Darwin's publication of On the Origin of Species in 1859 began to provide a scientific explanation for the diversity of life and its interrelationships. This led to the idea that Neanderthals might be a separate human species that evolved from a common ancestor with us. Subsequent discoveries of Neanderthal bones taught us much more about them. For instance, we now know they were not the primitive cavemen we once thought. Their brains were actually larger than ours, 30% larger in males and 15% larger in females. However, their bodies were also more robust, so a larger brain didn't necessarily mean higher intelligence. Interestingly, different parts of their brains evolved differently compared to ours. In us, the frontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking, parietal lobes, emotions, and cerebellum, hand-eye coordination, are highly developed. In Neanderthals, the occipital lobes, visual processing, temporal lobes, emotions, and orbitofrontal cortex, taste and motivation, were more developed. Thanks to their large brains, Neanderthals were skilled toolmakers. They had a sophisticated tool culture known as the Levallois and Mousterian techniques, which involved specialized stone knapping methods. They used these tools for hunting, processing meat, and working with plants. Their civilization was so advanced that they could even produce glue-like adhesives. Evidence suggests they engaged in symbolic behaviors, such as creating art with pigments and making and wearing jewelry. They had rituals, indicating they had a culture capable of contemplating death and the afterlife. They lived in groups like us, cared for their sick and elderly, and shared their resources with their community members. Fossil evidence shows that even severely injured individuals survived, indicating they were cared for by their groups. Despite what we've learned, until the early 2000s, Neanderthals were still considered a subspecies of Homo sapiens. For a long time, they were referred to as Homo sapiens neanderthalensis. If you watch documentaries from before 2010, you'll see them mentioned this way. This classification changed with a remarkable discovery. Humans interbred with Neanderthals, producing fertile offspring. Our Homo sapiens ancestors migrated into Europe and Asia, encountering Neanderthal and Denisovan cousins along the way. Neanderthals didn't just stay in Europe, they also migrated as far as Anatolia. That's why Neanderthal fossils have been found in places like the Karain cave in Antalya, Turkey. During these encounters, humans interbred with Neanderthals and Denisovans, meaning our evolution involved not just geographic, but also behavioral and sexual barriers. This interbreeding was not a bad thing. It was actually beneficial. As you might remember from high school biology, increasing a species' genetic diversity enhances its survival chances. This is why children from interethnic marriages often score higher in health and intelligence compared to those from more genetically similar parents. In immunology, the more diverse the immune systems of the parents, the stronger their offspring's immune system will be. This principle applies to interspecies breeding as well. Hybrids are often more robust than their parent species. The only problem is that during evolutionary speciation, factors like chromosome numbers and gametes can change. When these changes become significant, different species can no longer interbreed, a concept known as prezygotic reproductive barriers. If they do interbreed, their offspring are usually sterile or die young, known as postzygotic reproductive barriers. However, if hybrids survive, they often become a more successful species than their parents. For example, a mule, a cross between a horse and a donkey, is usually sterile due to chromosomal differences, but is often stronger and healthier than either parent. Similarly, a lager, a cross between a lion and a tiger, tends to be stronger than both parents. Remember, animals like mules and ligers aren't necessarily always sterile. We won't dive into that topic here, but it's fascinating. Neanderthal-human interbreeding provided us with significant advantages. Our immune systems are stronger than those of our ancestors. We specifically inherited toll-like receptor genes like TLR1 and TLR6 from Neanderthals, which produce proteins that help our immune systems detect and destroy harmful pathogens early. We also inherited genes affecting our hair and skin, aiding our survival in harsher environments. Some of our genes regulating fat metabolism come from Neanderthals, although some are linked to diseases like type 2 diabetes. However, genes we received from Neanderthals also helped us adapt to northern latitudes and survive there. Some allergic reactions and behavioral traits are also directly inherited from Neanderthals. In short, our interbreeding with Neanderthals essentially reinvented Homo sapiens. We know all this thanks to the complete Neanderthal genome published in May 2010. The genome also confirmed that Neanderthals are not a subspecies of Homo sapiens. Despite the interbreeding, they were a distinct species. That's why fewer researchers use the term Homo sapiens neanderthalensis today. The accepted classification now is that we are Homo sapiens and they were Homo neanderthalensis. Imagine living on a planet with other human species, interacting with them, maybe sharing meals or even fighting with them. What would the world be like if different human species existed today? Just think about it. Unfortunately, something went terribly wrong for the Neanderthals. We still don't know exactly what caused their extinction, because many factors likely contributed. Neanderthals were highly adapted to the cold and were skilled hunters, particularly of large game like mammoths, bison, and giant deer. However, several factors played against them. One significant factor was encountering Homo sapiens, a virus of sorts. Our tools were more varied and slightly more effective. When they challenged us, killing them wasn't too difficult. When they submitted, we integrated with them, interbreeding. Interestingly, our reproductive rate was higher than theirs, leading to their assimilation into our population. Additionally, although Neanderthals were well adapted to the cold, they were completely vulnerable to tropical diseases to which we were adapted. They quickly succumbed to these illnesses. While dealing with the invasion from their southern cousins, they also faced rapid climate change. The large game they relied on became harder to find. Compared to us, Neanderthals were less agile, and their close-range weapons weren't as versatile as our bows and spears. This significantly limited their survival chances. Communication issues, possibly due to less developed language skills, also likely played a role. But regardless, Neanderthals went extinct around 40,000 years ago after roughly 390,000 years of existence. For comparison, Homo sapiens have only been around for about 300,000 years. No matter your views on evolution, you must admit that Neanderthals were cool. A human species like us, thinking like us, but not us, living not 100 million years ago, but just 40,000 years ago. Think about people's fascination with alien civilizations. This is a truly exciting fact. The intelligent life we hope to find in space was here, close to us, only a few thousand years ago. Unlike aliens, we know for sure that Neanderthals were real. Will we meet the same fate as them? I don't know. But if there's one constant in the history of life, it's change. Species come and go, and life finds a way to continue. See you in the next video. Take care.